good to be in something from the ground floor. I came too late for that. I know. But lately, I'm getting the feeling that I came in at the end.
Look. Timeless. Billy Bats through the back, get you shining. And you can find him in a dark room where the waiters gotta blow a bunch of dust off the wine list.
I turned 30 last week, Pops. I rock Reeboks, and my knee pops. I'll have whatever he got. I overheard the special, not to eavesdrop.
I keep 100 in my palm when we shake hands. The chef kissed both cheeks when we came in. But I was doing key bumps at the fish course, so I skipped the other 6 plates that he sent in.
I told him, Omakase, I'ma eat it all. The machi was delicious, salmon needed salt. Just when I thought I'd seen it all, Peking duck, gold flakes in the duck sauce.
I look like Frank Sinatra's mugshot, drugs shop, the old blue eyes in a dust spot. I used to sell 9s with the trunk pops, but now the 850 glide by the bus stop.
And when the fun stops, guess who stays? And when the check came, guess who paid? Mama got me a foolproof recipe for creme brulee. Still burnt the edges in my Le Creuset. Right, you tried to teach
I'm
me.
moving loud with a whisper. My plug stepped out in his house slippers. We get that Malcolm, no middle. Now it's Tiffany plates, champagne, and cut crystal.
I blamed enough situations I've been through. Plates in my microwave that I sniffed through. Laundry list full of problems. Chest full of liquor, fist full of confidence.
And I live for the opulence. Grilled calamari, lemon zest on the octopus. Not sorry, lest I feel there might be profit in it. Rock to the mailman, how Stockton did it.
Bully ball, I'm playing on Dennis Rodman's Pistons. Could've called but didn't, and probably cost a friendship. Starts with a lie, hard on his sleeve, but darks in his eyes.
And the apartments in the sky saw $1 million cash, and it almost made me cry. I was born into crime. I don't know how to tell the truth. I was born into lies.
We cop sweets from the stores on the corners of the same streets that we ordered from. Thought we'd live forever, never cleaning up the kind of things that we believed in once.
And now I do it for the sport. I don't need to run Olympic medal floor seats for dealing drugs. 12 months worth of bills at once in the name of gold teeth and silver tongues.
Good morning. Good afternoon. It's your daily morning host, Mr. Kite. What's going on, guys? Interesting morning. So late last night, we did what we were hoping, and we put in the higher high on BTC. We put in the higher high off of 123,000, and I did get an entry a little bit late, actually, because I woke up and obviously we put in the higher high. We were coming back down beneath it. So on Bitcoin, my official entry is 121,530. So I got in a tad bit below for sure. But so far paying off. Once again, I'd have the long open on the other website, but since I'm sponsored by these guys now, I'm not gonna show that. So I'm holding this for the foreseeable future. We'll see what happens. The other coin that I got a short off of is Sue. I don't know. I was looking at a couple different coins yesterday, just seeing what was possible. And Litecoin, obviously, is one that I gave you guys the heads up on. But unfortunately, by the time I woke up, we were already pretty generously past. And I figured the Sue trade, that was in a better position. And obviously, it being an altcoin, if we are going to see any sort of major retracement, we'll have a lot more downside a lot quicker versus something that has a lot more volume in it. So I took that trade. I can show you why. Here's to answer your question. SBK said, do you still use ABC often? Every day. Every day. So the reason why I took the Sue trade was on the larger time frame. We had A to B to C, which kind of marks out a decent level for top. And that was quite a while ago. So this was the larger macro ABC here. And then on the smaller time frames, we had A to B to C. And that is what I took my trade off of. So obviously going into the future here, the hope would be is that, you know, if you're in a bullish stance, well, you would want this to come back down and retest $3.26 and form a little bit larger structure, and then recollect support, and then hopefully, you know, proceed into the future. Now, obviously, I don't have high hopes for a lot of altcoins. So, I obviously $3.30 would be pretty awesome to hit in terms of like ROI. Now, obviously, you guys know how I do. For a lot of different reasons, I don't use a whole lot of money on my accounts anymore that I show officially. But you know, it's $5 worth of risk, and if we come back down to $3.30, we would be looking at $82. So what? That's almost a 20x, like a 17, 16. Yeah, a 16 R&R, just back down to something that's actually fairly reasonable for us to come back down and retest that levels. At this point, almost a certainty. Obviously, things can always change, but I would really hope for like $2.30 to get hit. So, what would be? Let me check what the 50% mark is, because usually on shorts I don't like to hold shorts more than 50%. Close enough. 42 point, 41 to 42%. So $2.34 I think would be kind of like a primo target, and that would be just shy of $200. So almost a 50 R&R trade if this hits. Let me go ahead and pop the chat. I have a chat on my OBS, but it's not as large. I like it large. Pradesh, you said small account? Yep, always a small account. I've kind of discussed the reasons for that. One is legality reasons. Can't be showing unless you got this really good lawyers. I don't want to be showing the official trades. But as well as that, I do want to show like reality. You know, not everybody that comes on YouTube that watches someone like me is trading $20,000 margin. Okay, they're trading a couple $100 at most. So I want to be approachable. And it kind of weeds out bad actors too. There's people that come on here and they just like the money side of things, which obviously that's the whole name of the game. But if you don't understand how the trade actually works, well, then the money doesn't mean anything. So big numbers, but obviously you're going to lose in the end. Do you have Instagram or something where I can discuss stuff with you? If not, if you're not insanely busy, I'm not insanely busy. I'm not. I don't have an Instagram. I do have a Twitter. I don't know if it's in the description. I barely check that. If you really want to message me, I'm pretty sure I have my Discord in the description. You can add me as a friend on there. But as always, I mean, the chat is always good as well. This one, I just put in like $50 the other day. And I'm just using like $5 risk off of it. Okay, what happened to Ryan? Dude's gone off the rails, man. I'm gonna be honest and say I think it's drugs. This is unsubstantiated evidence, okay, but from someone who has been, you know, has used amphetamines, I think he was abusing amphetamines, and it did something to him. The dude was always sweating and always fidgeting, and that's, to me, I don't know. I just saw the signs. But I mean, obviously, like, I don't think it's going to exactly change your character. So I mean, he probably always was that way, but it kind of fucked with his brain to the point where, like, he runs with it. So if it's a 10K account, you will reduce risk. Absolutely. So, like, you know, percentage wise, $5 out of a $50 account is 10% risk. All right. But to refill a $50 account is easy. All right. But if you're risking $10,000, well, that's a lot of money. That's probably a lot of savings. So you don't want to just blow through it if things go the wrong way. So if you have $10,000 account, use like $100 worth of risk. All right. If I'm hitting a 50 R&R, all right, you're still gonna make $5,000. So, you know, you don't need to risk 10%. Yeah, you would make 50 grand if you hit it, but you lose. That's a lot of money wiped out. Are you currently one of the most profitable traders on here? I mean, I don't watch a lot of others, but in terms of like my strategy working and consistently making profit, I would say I'm up there. And in the past, I've done some ridiculous things in terms of profit. Unfortunately, I did dumb things with my money outside of trading. Bought things I didn't need to. I did the typical dumb thing that you do when you get rich quick. Because it was like a snowball effect, you know? I learned what I needed to learn, and it was slow at first, and then all of a sudden something clicked, and I just started compounding profits like crazy. We had the bull market, that helped a lot. So all the money that like I made, I bought things that didn't make me happy. I bought cars, computers, TVs, monitors, desk setups, flooring, like giving people money, like, and I never regret gifts. Like if I gave someone a gift, like that's not something I regret at all. But just a lot of money thrown around like it was worthless. This market has broken a lot of people and a lot of marriages. I wouldn't say that. And if it has, I mean, I don't see how. This has been like the most stable bull market that has ever happened, probably ever. Like you look at like the 2008 bull market, that was just like basically price inflation. This to me like has been a very consistent, like we've had the consolidations, like we build support, like this has been a really good market. It's just so weird seeing someone so plain as you being profitable and seeing someone else flash Lambos. A good example of that would be like Tom Hugard. He's my greatest role model when it comes to trading. Like what's awesome is I came to the conclusions that he talks about before I even saw him, but everything he said was just 100%. So I learned stuff after the fact, after finding him as well. Like, he's one of the reasons that instead of in the past, when I did do ABCs, I would target like the 0.3 to like 0.5 region on the retracements. But he kind of changed my perspective on that to like, you know, he had like a really good like sentence in his book. And like, you know, everybody has a book nowadays, but he didn't want to write a book, but people were just like pressuring him so much. He eventually did it, but he had a sentence where it was like, you know, 99% of your trades are going to be whatever. It's going to be your standard trade. Yeah, you might make some profit, you might lose some. It's going to be your everyday. But there's that 1% of trades that are going to actually like make you money, like put you into a different category so that you can continue on the path of like compounding. And he was like, the only way that you do that is by getting rid of this idea that the price is going to go somewhere, but rather let the price just go, you know, don't have like necessarily a take profit. Now with shorts, it's a different story because obviously like it's a diminishing return. So like as the price goes down, you know, relative from where you first started the trade, that percentage gets less and less as you go on. Like if I take, you know, a short at 100 and it goes down to 50, all right, that's 50%. And if I take a short at 50 and it goes down to 25, that's 50%. So it's not worth holding your short all the way down. Instead, if the market does allow it, you know, you go ahead and you reset the trade. You get into a new one if the market shows you that it's still bearish in that point. But with longs, we'll just hold them. Like, unless the market gives me a reason to get out and reset the trade, why do that? Tom Hugard, you know, he's making millions of dollars per year in profit. And he just sits in his little office and just live streams. And I started to do things that were not the way that I wanted to do things. I started buying cars and posting them, and to me, like, I don't necessarily, like, I didn't feel like it was like a show off. It was more like, look how awesome this is that like we've come this far. Because like this was back in like 2022, 2021. So like it was like within the span of like 3.5 years, I went from like working at B-Dubs making $7.25 an hour to going and buying, you know, like one step below a Maybach. So it was really cool for me. But then like 4 or 5 months of owning the vehicle, it no longer was something like, it was just a car. Like I sat in it and I drove it. It wasn't like, it didn't like bring me exponential happiness. And for me, a lot of the times the happiness didn't even come from the vehicle itself. It felt more like the happiness was coming from the perspective other people had because I owned the vehicle. And that's not something I want. If I own something, I want it to make me happy, not as like a thing that makes other people interested in what I'm doing. So my computer makes me happy. I look at it and I'm like, this shit's so cool. But like I never looked at that car and was, you know, obviously when I first got it maybe, but no, so the Maybach is just like the epitome of the S-Class. Technically, it's like it's under a separate name, but it's the S-Class, but with like all of the features, and then obviously like a better paint job. Absolutely. I mean, we're in a couple shorts right now, and I mean, with Bitcoin, when I say this, like I know that like other people don't want it, and I'm sure there's other people that like are in super longs right now. But for me, like I genuinely, this is me personally. Now at this very instance in time, we are like momentarily bearish, but like I'm not gonna start really like spouting like a lot of bearish stuff until we're back below like 109k. But me personally, I don't see the market going much further. And this is coming from a person that, you know, originally when we were like down in the bear market, like I was looking at like 176,000 as a top. Could we still get there? Sure. But like at this very moment in time, like with the ABCs starting to stack up and the market getting thinner, we're either in for a very nice consolidation or like an actual top. So yeah, I actually really like the interface of this website. So I mean, I'm sponsored by them, not like actively sponsored by them. They gave me like a sign up fee. But beyond that point, there's no more payments. But this is by DeFi. You can sign up with the link in the description. And yeah, so far so good. The slippage was kind of non-existent on these altcoin trades here, which I really liked. Obviously, I looked for a coin that had substantial volume in it, so that the slippage wasn't bad. But if you flash money in cars, the channel will blow up. I know. Like when I did when I was sitting here trading like, you know, $14,000 in profit back and forth. Yeah, we got up to like 200, 300 viewers. But that's not the people that are there during that period. They're there because they see a lot of dollars. They don't understand what it is that I'm doing. But people that come on here that I recognize their names every single time, they can come into the chat and be like, hey, take a look at this coin. Not in terms of like, hey, check out this shit coin, but like, hey, I see a very substantial setup that you might be interested in. Because they understand the core concept of what I'm talking about, so they go find it and they're like, hey, look at this coin, this is pretty cool. And sometimes I'll even take a trade on it because they know what I'm talking about and they understand how to manage the risk. And that's what I like. I don't like having random people that are just trying to, I don't know, that are just infatuated with the dollars that are being thrown around. That's awesome. That is awesome, SPK. I'm very happy for you. And that's pretty interesting. You know, I actually prefer that people, you know, come to me and say that they're like doing that. Because I mean, there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I started with like $5,000, you know. But it's really cool because I mean that's a lot. That's a 10x on your portfolio. So that's really awesome to hear, man. I appreciate it. For you sharing that. Yeah, like the market's just getting thinner and thinner. You can see like these consolidations have been shortening in time. Like this one before, like we really like had liftoff was about a year almost, 215 days ish. And then this one here, this was 118 days. So I mean, could we have like one more where it's like 30 days of downside or like 60 days of downside and then like one more spurt, you know, up into like the 40s or 50s? We could do that. I would be fine if that happened. Obviously, upside never hurts. But we're starting. The way the market's starting to look, we're starting to feel it. Getting thinner and thinner. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, if a quote unquote bear market is approaching, the like absolute most I would think we would come down to would be 38,800. But with like a stabilized local low around like 50K, You know, and we're just looking, and that's the thing. Like, this is not like a random number. This is me looking at where price found previous local lows, and then being like, okay, well, like, what's reasonable? You know, us coming all the way back down to these levels. Obviously, we have to break through 38,000, but like if we fall through 38,000, yeah, like 25K, we'll probably hit that if we don't recover that low. But it's the same thing that we did over here. You know, we looked at the bull market, and we looked at the local lows of the bull market. And these are all drawn from this point here, this point here, this point here, and this point here. So you can see how like price was influenced by that. You know, we came down to this one, found support, came back up, found support, tried to go for, you know, another run, ended up topping out with an ABC, and everything was history. And then over here, you know, we came back down to this level, and I'm like, all right, well, if we can't hold, you know, 28,944, well, then most likely that we are going to go down to like 16K. And what happened? We come down to 16K, pretty much on the money. And we found support. And at the same exact time, when we were down at 16K, I was like, hey, if we can't hold 16K, I'm probably going to come down to like 9. It's just the process of elimination. That's all it is. So like if we're looking at this bull market, we do the same exact thing. If we look at the bull market, we look at any substantial local low, you know, here, 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 and here, based off of this and this and this and this. If price does top out here, we'll probably come down to 75. We'll probably get some sort of bounce or retest. And then we'll, you know, if we continue to fail, we'll break through 75 and we'll come down to 50K, probably get some sort of bounce or retest. And then we'll probably have some sort of like, you know, fake out with a momentary, maybe like a week-long spout where we drop down to like 38K and then recover the 50K level again. And then all of a sudden everybody's buying back in and then we proceed. You know, it's like clockwork. With 500 leverage, that's nuts. Like I said, I mean, that's the cool thing. Like once you understand the core concepts, leverage no longer matters. You know, when you first get introduced to leverage trading, the leverage is basically like gambling. You know, if they were already going to use $80 of margin, well now it no longer becomes like, oh, if I'm using more leverage, I can use less margin. They go, I'm still going to use 80 margin. And then they crank up their leverage and then they lose it instantly because they don't have a stop loss. But once you like know how everything works, your leverage, like we are making more money than we would if we were just using our entire portfolio, but not by like an astronomical amount. You know, if you have $1,000 to work with and all of a sudden you put $200 on 50x leverage, you're 10xing your risk on your entire portfolio. You said you use small stop losses, 1 to 10 R&Rs. Love to hear it, man. Love to hear it. You said you wasted so much time on fake ass bullshit. When I found your channel, it was like a treasure. I appreciate that, man. I really do. It's been a long road. And there's been plenty of success stories like in the Discord and like that where people have like really made it in terms of like changing their life. And for anybody that like hasn't gotten to that point, It simply comes down to like just consistency. Like no matter what you're starting with, like if you're starting with like $500, yeah, it's gonna take you a much longer period of time. But even with like $500, it's only gonna take you maybe a couple years of like consistent trades to compound it to a point where like you're pulling in some, and like that's the thing. I talked about this in the past. Like if you want to like live off of trading, I think the minimum number would probably be some like your actual trading portfolio would have to be somewhere in the ballpark of $300,000 to $400,000. That doesn't include like your spot trading for like your general investments. That is just your trading portfolio. It's not your HODL portfolio combined with your trading portfolio combined with, you know, whatever. Just your trading portfolio. Because like, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that we shoot for like the lower end. Obviously, we all aim to like double or triple our portfolio every year, whatever it might be. But like, realistically, is that going to happen all the time? No. I would like to think that long term you would be above, you know, 20%. But like if we're just shooting for like 10%, you know, per year. So like let's say you make 20%, but then you pay half of it roughly in taxes. You're looking at like $30,000 left over on a $30,000 portfolio. So obviously you need to give some money back to compound the portfolio and keep it growing. But like, I would say once you get to around like making like $30,000 a year, that's when like you probably could quit your job and like pick up a part-time job to make up for whatever else you need. Depending on like your debt situation or whatever it might be, but hopefully no debt. I mean, it's a very long road, but like I know there's people in the chat that I've talked to that are like 60 or 70 years old, but I feel like a lot of us, you know, we have time, you know, to spend 5 years to grow a portfolio, and I mean you can add money to it every single week, and you know, once you start to see consistency, and you know, you never know what happens in life. You can have a come up. Did I did I roast your risk? Those were those I don't think like for the rest of my life I'll forget those nights. I forgot what we were trading, but I'm pretty sure you were in there, Spring. But we were all in the Discord. It was late at night, and it was during the bull market, and we were shorting. I don't know if we were shorting sushi or some other coin, but it just slammed downwards, and everybody just made out like a bandit. Those are good times. No stop loss? No, we got stop losses on here. So when you set up the trade on this website, so like let's say for example I wanted to take another short here, you know, I go to market, I set up my margin, you know, $10 worth of risk at 50x leverage. And we're willing to lose 50% of that. So that is $5. And then 50% at 50x leverage is 1% on the real chart. So if you hit TP/SL and you click advanced here, you can click the stop loss by price, and then you can change it to ROI, and then click on the 50% or whatever, you know, your set thing is. And I really like this website. Some websites, they'll do like standardized, like 10, 25, 50, 75, but you can slide to like individual digits between these two numbers. A lot of websites, they'll do like just where you can click 25%. But being able to like customize exactly. And then when you click confirm, instead of being like on here and like seeing the stop loss here, it sets it up as a separate buy order. So you can see my stop loss on the chart right here at $4.01. I mean, hey, like, you know, it's the whole thing of like when we did the $100 to $100,000 challenge. It's the whole like flight takeoff strategy. Like, I understand that people have pressures, bills, and stuff like that, and they want to make things better as fast as possible. Trust me, I know that better than anybody. But at the same time, it's better to take your time and not explode your account, and see progress rather than get so far, but then in the end, it didn't even matter, you know? So, you know, in the beginning, like, I understand like using a larger amount of risk to kind of get the account going, but you know, as it grows, like you're starting to get up there, you know, you're at $400. So to me, like a $400 account, you know, even using like 2% risk, you're looking at $8, which is, you know, almost double what this trade is. So like this trade here, you know, if it gets down to a point that I think is even reasonable, you're looking at a 17 R&R trade. So 17 R&R, you're looking at and then you're looking at like $140 almost of profit. You know, almost adding a, you know, you're adding 34% to your portfolio. So, you know, just start dropping the risk down. And for me, like, I kind of like the 2% risk mark. That's kind of like my standardized. Now, like my larger accounts, I use substantially less than that. I use like 0.5%. But that's just because like those are like, I don't want to ever lose those. I want to keep that money. But like accounts that like I'm working on, that I'm willing to take a little bit more risk on, I'll use like 2%. I think that was towards like the latter end. And I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was like kind of like the transitional period where I was kind of trying to make adaptations to how I did things. And I wasn't quite sure if it would work, so I reduced the risk a lot. Are you living off trading full time or still doing other jobs? I'm still doing other jobs. If I didn't screw up the way that I did, I probably would be sitting very pretty right now. But like it just comes down to like, there was a lot of factors that were in play. One, I got too complacent. You know, during the bull market, it just felt like money was just infinite. It felt like it was free. It was just coming out of the air. So like I didn't value it. I spent way too much of it on things I didn't need. I had been in this lifestyle of just, I would just sit in a chair and things would happen. Now I had my medication, which, you know, that allowed me to, you know, be more consistent with the streams, and obviously like the Patreon and everything like that helped out tremendously. So over time, I just got unmotivated. I still made trades, but like I didn't keep up with the YouTube channel. So, you know, that money died out. You know, I had to withdraw some money from my accounts, which eventually I just stopped. I said no more. Like I rather go work than continuously drain money from my portfolios, because that is way more detrimental. Like, you know, I didn't do my taxes properly. So, you know, I'm backed up on taxes, which, I mean, that's all handled now in terms of like, you know, everything's on a payment plan that's getting paid. But like, I rather take the hit emotionally and just get out there, do what I need to do, than continuously take like $4,000 away from my portfolio every single month. Because that $4,000 compounded over the next 25 years is possibly millions. So I'm not gonna waste the potential. So I have money that's kind of locked, you know, psychologically. Like I'm not gonna touch it. Like unless like something ridiculous happens, it's not even like a question of like that money is sitting there. So I still go out and work, and obviously, you know, I'm trying to do things to get better and be more motivated. You know, I went to the doctor. You know, we talked about the prescription, everything like that. I've been trying to, you know, just do what I need to do. That's all it is. He said, how the do you mess up so bad? It's called age. Okay. Because when I started all this, I was 17 and a half, 18. And then 2 to 3 years later, I'm in a position where I have more money than my parents, but none of the experience to back it up. I was lazy and didn't hire like CPAs to do my taxes for me. Just dumb kid stuff. Okay. A kid that has infinite power, but no right to wield it. And I still am. You know, I'm 25 now. And I feel like the lessons learned are valuable. You know, whenever I talk about it to somebody, I always put it into perspective. And obviously I say it mostly for myself, because shit does hurt. It always hurts, you know, to have a monumental F up and, you know, and have to claw back from it. But the whole thing is like, I got this over with when I'm young. I reached a pinnacle and crashed, you know, obviously not to bare bottom, but, you know, I can't, you know, go spend $60,000 in a year on DoorDash anymore, which is true. But I could have been, you know, 40 years old, had a wife and a couple kids and a mortgage on a home. And then what if that was the situation and my life came crumbling down and I made those mistakes? We would lose the home, probably get a divorce. My kids would hate me. Like, it just, there's always a silver lining. So now I can get this out of the way. I can learn the lessons that I need from it, so that way I never put myself in that situation again. So if I ever do, you know, have wife, kids, all that kind of stuff, I'm never going to put them in a situation where financial is going to ever be a problem. I reduced my weight from 240 to 187 in 4 months. That's what's up, man. Intermittent fasting, less carbs, no sugar. Dude, intermittent fasting, it's free. You know, people are going and getting like these GLP-1s and all that kind of stuff. Intermittent fasting, it's free, man. Like that first like week and a half to 2 weeks does kind of suck because your ghrelin levels, you know, they're not they're still what they used to be. So you still get like very hungry. But then after those 1 to 2 weeks, you're chilling. And the weight just starts flying off. When I was intermittent fasting, I was losing half a pound a day. At like my, you know, when I was about like 1 or 2 months in. So I was losing roughly like 15 pounds a month for free. And I, you know, if I cut out carbs and sugar and all that kind of stuff, it maybe would have been more. But I was very comfortable with half a pound a day. And I still got to eat all the foods that I love. That was the biggest thing to me. Man, we had one good spike to the downside. Now it's slowing down. I just want to say, I live for the Black Swan events. Now that like my trading strategy, I'm pretty much always in the correct direction. You know, most of the time we'll have a hedge trade open, and then, you know, one trade will get closed and the other one runs to either side. But like those really make me feel good. I really wish, like back here when this happened, I was trading ABCs. I was in a short position, but it was a breakout short. But that was a gnarly day. We went, yeah, this is a daily candle here. The daily candle was 40%, and then obviously we dropped a little bit over the next couple of days as well. That was spooky for some people. But once we recovered this low right here, I was fairly confident to start longing again. Like right here, you know, that ABC. Yeah, SBK. I'm not proud of it, but you know, like I said, I mean, we were streaming pretty much all day long during the bull market. I would just order DoorDash. You know, we splurged a little bit. You know, we would get the nice things. And I tipped very well. For me, like it's standardized tipping. I don't like on DoorDash. I don't tip based off of like the amount of food, unless it's like, oh, they have to like, you know, put some extra effort in. But you know, if they're driving 7 miles, I'll tip $14. He said, "All right, Kite, what's the top of BTC and ETH this cycle?" I mean, I'm tempted to just say right now. You know, the top of BTC is $124,500. The bottom of the BTC bear market will be $45,160. For Ethereum, the top of Ethereum I don't know, because everything in me tells me that we would want a higher high off of this level here. Like, we at least got to put in a higher high, right? I don't know. I don't know if we're done yet. I just don't see Ethereum not putting in a higher high. That'd be kind of crazy. I mean, we've been putting higher highs forever. But I mean, if we come back down below 4,100, that ABC is completed and confirmed. At that point, I would more than likely be expecting at least a retest of like 2,100. Then if we fail at 2,100, we'll probably come back down to 14. Big picture. All right. What if next cycle is the cycle that everybody likes? Because I talked about it, how like we're gonna have to compound pressure in order to get these cycles that we once had so freely. What if this is an A? We don't put in the higher high. This is our A, B, C, B right here. Okay. And then we do put in the C wave. You know, maybe back down, you know, somewhere in the like $600 range. We complete this. All right, and next cycle we'll see something pretty nice. You know, like 8.9K or something. At 21K more than the average US salary, by the way. Yeah. And my perspective on money has changed a lot since then. Like, I used to be the type of guy that's like, oh, I want to make like, you know, at minimum $150,000, $200,000 a year. To me, to live comfortably and have the things that, you know, I would say if you have no debt, like at most you have maybe like a cheap car note and a respectable, you know, mortgage. I would say like $50,000 a year is like completely comfortable in the United States. If you're not comfortable, I think at that point, I think it might be down to personal choices. Now, like if you have like a whole bunch of different bills that have interest on them and like it's kind of eaten away, that's when 50K probably doesn't become it probably becomes slim. I don't think like you're in like a desperate situation, but you might not be exactly comfortable. Now, if you have a family with 4 kids and a wife that, you know, needs, then yeah, maybe you might have to bump that up to like a good like 70 to 80K. I think 50K for like a family of like 3 to 4. I think you're sitting pretty. Especially if you're dual income. A lot of people are dual income now. How much did you make it? 18 to 20, bro? I think during the year of the bull market, somewhere around like $400,000 to $500,000. But that was just that bull market year. Biggest loss and biggest win. My biggest losses were on Market Cipher. just because of the overconfidence. I made a lot of money. And then when here, I'll show you on the chart. So back here, I made a decent amount of money on the uptrend here. And as soon as we started going to this little consolidation period right here, I lost a stupid amount of money. Like an unfathomable amount of money. And that's when I started to like really do my research, and not just do my research in terms of like reading and stuff like that, but really like sitting down, dissecting my psychological issues that I had with trading, thinking about how I could combat those, and setting up roadblocks. Because for me, figuring out what I needed to do to be profitable wasn't about finding the correct strategy. It was about taking away the ability to do things and then working within those constraints until something clicked. That's the whole premise of how we've come to do what we've done today. It wasn't researching strategies, it was taking away the ability to do things. It's not my biggest like dollar win, but in terms of like probably my favorite trade that like was like a large win, it was on the this was when I first started experimenting with Elliott Wave, and me, my friend Andre and my friend Isaiah, we would have like these scalping parties where they would come over, we would all have laptops, and we would just kind of search the market for coins and, just take some silly trades. And we were on the 30-second time frame, and I was doing, Elliott Wave retracements and targets and stuff like that. And I made a trade on the 30-second time frame, and I made $14,000 in less than a minute. That was, like I said, not my biggest like win, but like in terms of like time frame versus how much money I made, probably my favorite trade so far. I don't even know. I think it was on Ethereum. But it was funny because like we would start making trades, and we would measure everything in like AirPods. So instead of like talking about like profit loss in terms of like dollars, we would say like, oh, I just lost 2 AirPod Pros. And then when I hit the 14K, I was like, I just made 75 AirPod Pros. And they looked over to me and they were like, what? What did you just say? Good times, man. Good times. What else do you use other than ABCs and basic AT? TA? Nothing. I mean, when we were kind of like transitioning fully into ABCs, I would use stuff like the RSI. I would use it at 125, which I felt respectable with that. I mean, it was probably like the least lagging indicator, and you were just looking for divergences. But then over like a long period of time of using it, I would like take a trade because there's an ABC, but then there'll be no divergence. But then yet we fell off a cliff or we pumped to the moon. Let's see if I can find an example of that. Okay, so there was a divergence here. There was a divergence here. There was a divergence here. And the one time I want to show this off, there's divergences. Divergence. What about the all-time high? God dang it, there's a divergence. Okay, but essentially, I would take the trade regardless of if there was a divergence or no divergence. So in the end, you know, there was no point to it. Okay, so like, depending on which chart you're on, like right here, there's no divergence, but yet the trade worked out. Up here, there's a divergence, and like right now, currently, we have a divergence at this top. Well, I mean, I've done a lot of things. I mean, we've done market cipher. We've looked at like, the like level 2 data. I've done book maps and looked at like buy walls and sell walls. I've done the Elliott wave. To me, it just, there was so much that caused psychological problems that it wasn't worth it for me. And for other people, it might be. You know, there's people that make money with like TD sequential and stuff like that. But for me, like, there's nothing that beats this. It's so freaking simple. So, although like maybe it's not the most profitable that you could ever be, but for me, it's something that I can do. Like you throw any chart at me, within less than 15 seconds, I could find, if there's a trade, I can find it. And I can figure out what my ideal scenario would be. With a lot of the other things, you there's so much. You change your time frame and the indicator changes completely and gives you a different signal. When you're trading price action, because that's what ABC is, it's a real-time trading method. All right, it can be used on any time frame, and it's so real-time that unfortunately limit trading is not really a part of it. All right, you can limit trade with ABCs, but sometimes you might miss a trade because of it. Whether it's worth it, that's up for you to decide. For me, I just market trade. You know, in the end, we make enough money. Does it really matter? You know, I'm sure if I stacked up all the money that we've spent on fees over the last couple of years, it's substantial. But then as well as that, the profit is as well. So who am I to complain? But that's the thing. Like I can load up TradingView on my phone and I can see what I need to see. I can see the price levels. I don't have to zoom into a stochastic chart and, you know, it's just simple. That's all it is. And it gives me exactly what I need. A yes or a no. I don't worry about if price is going to go down or go up. I just need a yes or no on whether or not my money is on the board. Simple as that. A lot of other trading methods don't have that. You have to find kind of like your perfect scenario. For me, I need 3 things. 3 letters. The rest can figure itself out. You don't use spider lines? Come on, man. That was shameful. That was shameful. Oh, the Gone fans, that came from a period of my life where I was heavily influenced by DMT. So I'm like, I can see the Matrix. And I tell you what, looking back at it, it's pretty gnarly. Okay. I wasn't exactly crazy with the Gone fan thing. But once again, it's so convoluted. So we moved away from it. It's one of those things where I'm putting roadblocks to ensure profitability. But him watching my live streams and all of a sudden he's using spider lines. All right. Use ABCs, trading regular stocks and options for trading. Yeah. So like we talked about Apple, talked about Nvidia, talked about Tesla. Now with stocks, I don't like actively trade stocks. I might sell when there's like something big in terms of like a large ABC. But like I'm not trading like the 1 hour time frame for sure. I'm trading like the daily and looking for very large structures. Mostly local low, like ABC bottoms. Because I'm more interested in catching bottoms rather than trying to short a recession. But like with Apple, you know, we caught that the most recent local low on Apple, which was back here at 125. So far we've done 84% on Apple. Nvidia. Nvidia, I think this was the last like ABC here. Not a whole lot to take part in here. But AMD had a nice one. The AMD one was really cool because I was talking to a high school student that I used to just kind of like join Discords and talk to people. And I ended up coming across this guy, and he was in a like a marketing class, and he was like, "Hey, you know, you do stocks and stuff. Like, can you help me with my yearly project?" And the yearly project, I forgot what it was, but it was something like they have to pick a stock, and they have to make like a minimum of like 20%, like 10% in the stock market or something like that. And I'm pretty sure it was this one right here. But AMD was putting in a ABC right here. And I was like, just buy AMD right now. And just don't sell it. And he ended up, I think, within the span of like a couple days, like he made all his money that he needed to get the A in that class. Yeah, from the bottom of this ABC on AMD, we are now up 10,000%. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not the right one. I'm on the weekly chart. I did buy this though. I remember when I made the purchase. It wasn't anything substantial. It was like a couple $100, but I was in CTC. So like our school had 2 separate schools. And one of the schools I would go to and I would get my A+ certification. And I remember buying AMD at this point in time because this is when they started releasing the new Ryzen processors, and the performance was good enough where I was like, oh, AMD's making a comeback, so I'll buy AMD. It wasn't because of the ABC, but it's very interesting to see the ABC marked that local low. Let me go down to daily chart. This was back. Okay, it was this one right here. ABC. This is the one that I told him about. Was it? No, because this is 29. It could have been. I'm confused now because I don't feel like it was that long ago. I know I started getting into Elliott waves around 2019. So I'm unsure now. I'm pretty sure it was this one though. But I don't feel like I was actively using ABCs back in 2019. But maybe it was because of Elliott wave. I told him about that one. But I do remember giving him the advice of an ABC. I'm unsure. We had this ABC top here on AMD, a little bit of a retracement. Well, like this thing, like I look for the bigger movements on stocks. So stuff like this. What was the other? Did we Tesla recently have? I know we were plotting out Tesla. We're still waiting on it. But if Tesla puts in this ABC right here, I will end up buying some. Is the 0.441 ideal take profit for ABCs? Well, like I said before, I no longer prescribe to the idea of take profits. So the way that I trade ABCs now is like this. So let's say, for example, that you have an ABC long and you get into that position right here. And then price goes up. And then we put in a short position. I will then take the short position. Okay. Now I'm holding both of these trades. So for the uninitiated, they go, well, now you're not making any money. And that's the wrong thought process. It's not that you're like technically, yeah, if everything stayed static, you no longer are making money. But the money has already been made. All you're doing is setting up an equal trade to it and securing the profit. So now one of two things are going to happen in the market. Either one, it was simply a retest to the downside and price is going to continue to the upside. Or two, this is actually a top and the price is going to come plummeting back down. Okay, so you might eventually get stopped out of this long position, but now your short is open. And now if it does proceed past, you're now making more profit. So between these 2 points, you are no longer generating new revenue. Now you can probably open up trades on other coins and stuff, but on that coin in particular, it's kind of locked. Okay. So now the question becomes, well, like, how do you make the most out of it? Now this simply comes down to trust. And you might not always get it, but if you look, and that's the cool thing about trading actual price action, you can go back, and as long as you understand the rules that your trading strategy works in, you can always go back and see what would have happened. Like, what were the moves that would have been made? So if the price comes down and then retests this high and then gets rejected and comes back down, well, now look, you have a new A to B to C long position. So in this case scenario, if the market is going to maintain a bullish stance, it's going to do so from its strongest position, which is the new ABC long. So you can take profit. So like as soon as price goes below this level, you can exit this trade. All right, this trade no longer exists. You take profit on it. So now you just took profit on everything from here to here. All right, that's all profit. Now you open up the new long trade if price action goes back above. So now that new zone is smaller. So where before it was from here to here, all right, now it's from here to here. And once again, one of two things are going to happen. Either one, the market is going to continue going bullish, and now you get stopped out of this short trade and you continue making profit to the upside. Or two, you get stopped out of the long trade and the market plummets. Market's got to go somewhere. Now, like obviously, could it consolidate sideways? Theoretically, yeah, but that's just traditionally not how things work. And yeah, you know, people don't like getting stopped out. But for me, there's trades that you can't prepare for. All right. For example, we'll go back and look at Bitcoin. So when I started adopting this method, all right, we were right here. Okay, so I took the ABC short from here. You can see A, B, and C. Okay. So if I would have taken profit at the 441, which is roughly around like 38,790, that would have been a terrible mistake because you can see the price went to the floor. So instead, I held the trade. Right? When we got down to this level here, I was anticipating the possibility of a long trade because obviously that would then become A and a B and a C. And then I was looking for a possible long hedge, but we never got it. We fell below and we didn't get back above. But then right here, now it's a little bit harder to see on the daily time frame, but we had A to B to C. So like I said before, if the market is going to maintain a bearish stance, it's going to do so from its most recent bearish structure. So instead of holding this short, I took profit and then I opened it from here and I let it go. And then as soon as we put in this A to B to C right here, I took profit on that one. And then obviously the shorts started failing more and more often. All right, because we were getting closer to the bottom. So there was like a month-long period where things weren't kind of working in our favor, but we just made a stupid amount of money over here. So like if I lose a little bit of money over here trying to find my positions, as long as I'm not like using 10% risk, I have plenty of time to do so and plenty of money to do so. Because it's not my money I'm using anymore. It's using the profit from the previous trades. So, you know, like right here, this was, I was using like a 1.5 to like a 1% stop loss. Kind of we'll call it there. All right, this one was a 21 R&R, and I'm assuming this one was something similar. And this one was a 25. So almost 50 in R&R. We'll call it like 46. So I have 46 chances to get this right. Now, obviously, things were kind of wacky. This short ended up failing. This short ended up failing. This one ended up failing. And this one finally worked out. We held it. And then once we created this A to B to C structure here, I did close and then reopen. And then the FTX crash happened. And, people were like, why were you short? Well, I was short because of ABC. But then we had, on the larger structure, A to B to C. So I kept, even though I was fairly confident that we were at the bottom because of this local low, and we were definitely much farther away from the all-time high, I still kept this short open. Now, I don't remember. I did close it, but I didn't close it until right here when we put in this A and this B and this C. But I opened up this long position. And my dumbass did not hold it long enough. All right. I don't know what I was thinking. I was still getting used to the concept. And for whatever reason, I didn't think. And that is the issue. All right. When you get in the way of the trade and you start thinking that you know where something is going to go, which leads you to take profit or enter or something like that, that's when the problem happens. Either one, you miss out on profit, or you end up putting yourself into situations where you're getting stopped out because you're just not in like a pivotal place on the chart. So I was still getting used to that concept, and I ended up taking profit on my long position somewhere around here. And we ended up having another jump up, but we didn't have an ABC for me to get into. So I kind of missed out on this long here. And then I finally did catch the long position here. And I'm pretty sure, once again, I ended up taking profit somewhere up here, or even a little bit sooner. And that's the shit that I regret. Okay. And that will not happen anymore. Like it simply comes down to like, it's not an option. All right. So if I get a long position, I am not getting out of the long position until I have another one to get into, because you have absolutely no idea where something is going to go. So like over here, all right, this is a really good example of me. I can have an opinion. Austin can have an opinion, but the trader does either the complete opposite versus the opinion, because he's trading. I'm thinking. They're two separate things. So over here, Austin, the person, goes, we have a big ABC. I really don't see us being bullish anymore. The market is coming to an end. But the trader, all right, is always pre-anticipating. And I said, well, we have an A and we have a B. If we do end up putting in this C wave and creating the ABC, I'm going to take a long position. Even though me as a person, I was bearish, I still took a long because the market said there was a possibility for it. And I held that long, and I still am. Now, albeit from a different position. All right, I'm holding it from here. But essentially, it's the same long. All right. But I was able to take profit and enter at a higher price point, and we continue moving. Now, do I recommend continuously degrading the structure? You would preferably have the same size or larger structure to enter the next trade on, but that's not always possible. So yeah, I was trading the larger structures here, but Johnny took the bottom here off of this ABC right here. So within margin of error, the bottom. What if I hold the long until it forms a possible short plus trail stopping? I'm not going to deny, giving you that possibility, but for me, moving your stop loss beyond like the point of just like break even simply comes down to fear and greed. Plain and simple. All right. The reason why people like trailing stops were not designed for you. They were designed for the exchanges. That's it. The reason why is because the exchange knows that fear is the primary resource of fee generation. You get a little bit scared because the price turns against you. Mark it out. You just paid a fee. All right. So, trailing stops combine that fear into an automated process. You set up a trailing stop if the market reverses against you by 1 to 2%, even though you're up 1,000%, you're going to get out. Why? Why? It could go another 2,000%. Why are you going to get out? They're designed to get you out of your trade so that you continuously start making market trades, getting back in and back out and back in and back out and back in and back out. And you generate fees. Trailing stops were not designed to help the trader. They were designed to make money. That's it. All right. If you took a trade from a certain point, it's because you were confident at that point is good to long. Why'd you lose that confidence? Now, like if a short develops in terms of an ABC, yeah, I go, hey, yeah, that can turn price around. Let's take a short there. I'm once again, like I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to tell you my point of view. If you trade long enough, you'll see what I'm talking about. Because every single time that I thought that I knew better, I have burned myself. I have lost money, potential, and sometimes just lost straight up money. Because now I'm trying to find a re-entry point and there's no good structures. I had the good trade. Why did I get out? Thank God I never used trailing stop losses because I would get burnt so many times. Right? It looks fine on a daily chart, but there's plenty of times where the price will drop back down 5%, but then continue back up in the same day. If you're using a trailing stop, those are going to get hit a lot. So, like I said, I'm not trying to like deter you from using them, but my perspective, they were not designed to help you at all. Like I said, I mean, if you're a substantial amount away, like let's say you took this trade here and we dropped down to like $3.40. Like if you wanted to move your stop loss down to your entry point or maybe a little bit past it, that I would say like okay. But for the people that like they take the short here and then the price drops all the way down to here and then they move their stop loss to the halfway point. Why? Because like you're gonna hit the support and then it's gonna go for an upwards retest because that's what markets do. You're going to get stopped out. There's going to be no good short position. And then what if it continues? Non-trailing stops are yeah. No one's denying that stops are useful. I'm saying that trailing stops, to me personally, are not useful at all. They only serve to generate fees based on fear and greed. You're either one, afraid of losing money, or two, afraid of losing money that you've already made. Well, until the trade's closed, you haven't made any money. Can you show your P&L? No, not on my main account, no. And this account was just made. But everything's documented. I can go back and watch the streams. I haven't done like a whole lot of like actual like challenges over the past like year and a half, 2 years. Like if you go back, you can look at all my stuff. All the trades are there. That's the one thing that if I would have gone back and slapped myself in the face all those times and said like, hey, don't get out of the trade, there's no reason to, that would have been a lot more profit. Like a stupid amount more profit. So I try to make sure that people understand it. Like it's one of those things where you can't teach someone until they know it. It's something that has to be experienced. Because no matter how much I reiterate it, I know someone's gonna do it. They're gonna go, I just don't have a good feeling, and they're gonna get out of something that was worth staying in. And the problem is, it's like adding to a losing trade. Okay, like let's say, for example, you're not using a stop loss and you're in a short and the price starts going up. So you go, hey, if I add more margin, my liquidation point goes up. And then the problem is that maybe it worked. You saved your ass and you made more money because of it. Because obviously if you add more margin, well, then you make more profit. That like solidifies it in your brain that that's the way that things should work. The hit my save ass button. But then there's going to be that one time where you're like, oh, it worked so many times before. Add more margin. Oh, it went up again. Add more margin. Oh, damn it, it went up. Add more margin. And all of a sudden, you're at 50% risk. And the price just keeps going up. At that point, you have only a couple of options. You double down, or you cut your losses. Yeah. So like all the $100,000 to $100,000 challenge, that was all done on live stream. All the trades documented. Everything past that point as well. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long period of time. But like I said, I just for like legality reasons and security reasons, I don't show like my main accounts and like leak their IDs or anything like that. Just that's how things are done. All right, let's go through the chart again. I'll let you guys know what setups currently on the board. So for Bitcoin, obviously the bigger structure that we're paying attention to right now is 109,474. If we get back down below that, to me, that is very bearish. In terms of if we do go back down below that, I would more than likely be expecting at minimum a retest of 74,469. And maybe even this is an actual top and we come back down to, you know, like the 50K region, right? And I'm currently in a short trade off of this ABC here, which hopefully will lead into the larger structure shown here. So unless we just all of a sudden start breaking continuously to the upside, this is the level that I will be shorting. Okay. So until like a new structure forms, 123,124 is my shorting point. So even if we come back up to it, retest it, I get stopped out. If we don't form a larger structure, I will be retaking that trade. Litecoin, very large ABC structure, and it looks like we're coming to a pinnacle. All right, we have A to B to C, and then we have within the C wave, we have A to B to C. Buddy, what are you doing? And then at the very top of that structure, we have A. I should probably get rid of some of this stuff here. And at the very top of that structure, we have A to B to C. Okay. So, if I mean, we're way past the point now, but that's where the short point would have been. Technically, it wouldn't be awful. I do think we're probably going to have a little momentary sideways price action, but if LTC is one of your options and you really need a trade, technically you could take the short trade off of the larger structure. At this very moment in time, we are above it and kind of finding support off of it, but that option is there. Someone informed me the other day that XMR is actually under a 51% attack. So XMR, you know, if they can get it figured out, has a very awesome ABC bullish structure with a couple ABCs towards the end here. So if we can hold this price level, this wouldn't be a bad idea to pick up XMR on spot for me personally. Because let's say, for example, there is a double spend because of the 51% attack, which I don't think they've been able to do yet. XMR would just, whatever the double spend coin is, it would just fork. And then that might have to happen several times until they get the network under control. And very simply, they could get it under control by just raising the mining fees, because then it would incentivize more people to go and mine on the XMR network, which would take away from the pool that is currently attacking it, and then no more 51%. So this would stabilize. Like, XMR is not done. Like, a 51% attack is not the end all of a coin, okay? Because that's how crypto works. It's built into the process. It knows that it's a possibility, so it's just going to fork the coin. You're going to have a real XMR and a fake XMR. So, Ethereum, there's no trade on Ethereum at the moment, so there's nothing for me to really talk about. Like, unless we came all the way back down below here, which, I mean, is a very good possibility. I mean, if we're coming back down below 4,096, there's plenty of headroom. You know, we have a good, from the top here to like the very bottom of the B wave, that's 65%. But even kind of like this midway point at this, like inverse head and shoulders, local low, that's 47%. So that would be a decent trade, as long as things don't slide back and forth along that level, getting you knocked out. But that's pretty much it. Those are the coins I'm interested in. And then obviously we have the Sue coin. I have no clue about this crypto. I saw a good setup. Bitcoin was bearish. It's an altcoin. More than likely it would fall. Simply came down to that. This is the setup that I took my trade off of. And like I said, I would be looking for it to do an A to a B to a C at minimum. But as well as that, if we are at some sort of major top, well, then we can probably expect it to come back down to 2.3. That would make some money. Hey there, Kite. Do you think this strategy works on meme coins? I mean, if you see an ABC structure, I think it would more than likely work. The problem with lower volume coins isn't the fact that ABCs don't work. It's that there's more structure variance. So like with Bitcoin, if we create an ABC that has like a resistance here, if we did happen to come back down below and come back up, it respects this line way more. All right, we would come up to it and then we would get rejected. But with like with a meme coin, we would, you know, come back up to that line and we would just like go over and under it, and then eventually we would fall down. There's a lot more jagged edges when it comes to supports and resistances. So the higher volume a coin is, and the higher market cap, the harder it is to move price action. So you see a lot more of like these well-organized structures. So it's not that you can't trade meme coins, it's that you're probably going to have to use a larger stop loss to help yourself from getting constantly stopped out. Because, you know, we've been over it. Getting stopped out is a part of the game. Like if I trade Bitcoin, I'm not mad if I get stopped out 4 or 5 times, because I know if I do get the trade, well, we're probably going to hit like a 25, 30 R&R trade. So getting stopped out 5 times isn't an issue. But if you're trading, you know, Kite coin, and you get stopped out 20 times, you can see how what's the point in even playing that coin. And then if you increase your stop loss way too much to the point where you're not getting stopped out, even if you do win the trade, now you're only looking at like a 5 R&R. So you might as well just went and played Bitcoin anyways. So it's not impossible. It's just not preferable. That's all. All right, guys. We went over the chart one last time. I'm going to go ahead and go make some food and then head on out. I appreciate you guys' time today, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow morning around 7 or 8 a.m. EST. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Exciting price action. We finally got some trades on the board in terms of downside price action that we were looking for. And now, whichever way the market really decides to go, I'm ready for it. And love to see it. This is my favorite time, is when you finally have the hedge trade set up and we're kind of in a position now where we're either going to rip to one side or the other. So, happy to see it. All right, guys. I appreciate your time today. And I'll see you soon, okay? Let's go ahead and just throw something on. Do Cadillac Bandit. And get ready. Okay. Bye.
The chair. For real though, they be getting double my streams and somehow still broke. I be keeping track of who I dap and who I elbow. I'll reconsider. Get rich and die richer, present them and leave bitter. B.I.B.I. Who got the keys to the Kia? Whoa, let it rain, let it snow. Steady my propellers and boats. I'm ready with umbrellas and coats, cause I can't stand the cold. I wish I had a brand new caddy. Baby sitting right by daddy. made me see the man that I could be. Second verse. Turn a mess into another lesson learned. Let it burn. Left turn in my drop Chevy, I'm gone. Bumping Nicotina and Tom Petty, we young. Who got the key to my Winnebago beat? Feel the bass, let it breathe. Sammy Huckleberry, baby, unapologetically me. Rocking the same clothes. My hoodie black, my chains gold. Wish I had a couple more dollars. Wish I was a little bit taller. Wish I had a ride. I'd pull back the roof. Nothing like Seattle in June. I wish I wasn't getting any older and I had a better head on my shoulders. Wish that I slept and put to rest the creature living